friends, today I'm gonna wrap up the second half of February. So even though in the second half I only finished 5 things, I am so glad that I split my wrap up in 2. I already have kind of forgotten a lot of my thoughts about the books that I read in the second half. And I don't even want to know what my thoughts about the books in the first half would be today. So even though, a wrap up of 15 books total would have been totally fine, I'm so glad. First of all, I'm so glad that I don't have to talk about 15 books today because I'm still very tired from performing my project and all. And also because I totally would have forgotten all of my thoughts. That said, while I'm mentioning the project, it went incredibly well. I had an amazing time. It was just so much fun. I think what's really important with these kinds of things is that you work hard and you work hard and you work hard and you work hard and you put a lot of things into it. But at the end of the day, when the day actually comes where you perform it, sorry, my hair is annoying the crap out of me today. There's probably going to be a lot of changes, but you really have to kind of stop thinking about, just all the small details and the things you could do better and, just in general, what people are expecting. You have worked hard and practiced hard and rehearsed hard for years, for months, for, weeks, for days to make this the best possible performance. And then when it actually comes to the performance day, the best thing you can do is just to enjoy it because everything else should come naturally at that point. And I think I really managed to do that. And then on top of that, I also think that it went super well. Obviously not perfect, I don't think there is a way for this to really go perfectly. You forget some lines, you mess up some notes in your songs, that's all natural. But I am so incredibly happy with how it all went. I'm just glad I did it, I'm done with it, and that it just all went so well and I got some really great feedback and all is well and all is good and I'm happy. Anyway, I am now gonna get into the 5 things that I read in the second half of February. The first book that I finished was A Heart and a Body in the World by Deb Caletti. I listened to the audiobook of this, which I am obviously someone who listens to a lot of audiobooks and I really had a good experience listening to the audiobook, but I do think due to the topic matter in this that the audiobook is probably not going to be for everyone. I think that for a lot of people it will just not affect them as much or hit them as hard if they're listening to it. It just really depends what kind of reader you are. But in general, I highly recommend the audiobook. I thought the audiobook was absolutely fantastic. This story was just so intense. I still don't really have any words to talk about it. The event kind of that happened that makes this character run across the country is such a loud event. But this story is so quiet. Deb Caletti really had a way of telling this story in a way that felt really quiet, even though it's about such a loud thing. In general, just the way the story was told and who it is told from and at what point of the kind of events it is told from, I think it's just brilliantly done. Like everything about it is incredibly well done. It's a story that is so important to tell and that needs to be told more often. But Deb Caletti managed not only to tell an important story, but to tell it perfectly. I think it's just incredible. And I buddy read this with Melanie, and reading it with her also really made this experience even more intense. The perspective that she was, coming from just being an American, and this does have to do with gun violence, it just really opened my eyes to some things that I didn't even think about. Like I remember we had a conversation on Snapchat because she really made me think about some more aspects and I just started bawling. I don't know, it was just different buddy reading it with someone who is in the US, who is, in the country where this story takes place and where this story could happen that way and has happened in similar ways. It was just really intense and really added something to my experience as well and made me think about it in a different way. So yeah, I think this is an incredible book. There are trigger warnings, huge trigger warnings for it that I am gonna leave in the description. So if you might have any triggers that have to do with gun violence and crimes that could be connected to that, definitely please check the triggers because it is a lot. But if you can handle it, I think this is a must read. That's all I can say. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Case for Jamie by Brittany Cavallaro, the third book in the Charlotte Holmes series. I love this series as a whole, and I love them all pretty equally, but I think I love this one the least so far. It's just a little bit different than the other 2 books in a way that we read from the characters' perspectives and what's happening in the characters' lives. It's very different. I didn't like it as much as the other 2 books, but it works and I understand why. And I think that is super important with these kinds of things. And that's why at the end of the day, they are all still like super equal. And I wouldn't actually want to rank them because I think they are just such a good series, just all together. They just work really well. I am obsessed with these characters. Nothing about that has changed. I am so invested in the relationship between the 2 main characters. I think it is beautifully written. I don't know, something about these books is really quirky and fluffy, but it's not quirky and fluffy at all, actually. Like, the topics in this are so intense, and like it has to do with like murder and violence, and there's like talk about sexual assault and drug addiction, all these things. But for some reason, these books are still like comfort reads for me. They still make me feel really warm and fuzzy inside, which I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me. But I just really think that the characters are what makes this story such a heartwarming story for me. I love them so much. Like, literally, Brittany Cavallaro could like write a novella of them just like being in a car for 12 hours and I would love it. So I really fall in love with these characters. But then on top of that, I also think that the plot is excellent. I think that there's so much going on in these stories. So yeah, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to What Happened by Hillary Rodham Clinton. Obviously, there's no way going around the US election, even as a non-American. But especially the last election was, you know, pretty huge. It was definitely the election that I followed the closest. I don't think I was ever as involved in it as I was this time. And there were a lot of factors that influenced that. But still, I feel like it's hard to really understand it if you're not in the country and if you're not really like actively following it. That's why I really wanted to read this book, because as a whole, the elections are still a mystery to me, especially these ones. I really just wanted to get more in detail and really understand what happened. Obviously, you can assume that if one of the candidates and the candidate that lost is telling the story, there's gonna be some bias in there. And I went into this knowing that and completely being okay with that, because I personally really respect Hillary Clinton as a person, and I really wanted to know her story with her biases. It was really well done. She had a lot of statistics and sources in there, but she also definitely came from a very personal point of view a lot of the times, and I just enjoyed that balance, and it just really made me understand much better what happened, how this happened. As I said, I definitely respect Hillary Clinton as a person anyway. Well, as a person and as a politician, I think she really knows what she's doing, but this just, I like her more now, like much more now. I think it was just really great to just get into some more personal things as well, and I really feel like I just got to know her more as a person now too, especially listening to the audiobook, hearing her tell this story, and sometimes the humor she would have in her voice talking about certain things, but then also in general her being really emotional. Like, I know especially when she would talk about her mother, she would often get very emotional, and you know, she like read part of her speech that she would have given if she had become president. These things, they really emotionally got me as well, both because I'm like, this is what we could have had, but also it made me feel for this person. It made me understand the situation this person was in, where she not only lost this huge thing, but she also lost it against someone like Donald Trump, who she herself as a woman felt super uncomfortable about. Like, just all of the layers, you cannot even imagine them. You don't even think about all of the different layers going on in this. And this book really made all of these things like really, really clear to me. And I just appreciate this so much, and I'm so glad it exists. For me, it was immensely helpful in understanding and processing this whole thing, and in just understanding Hillary as a politician and as a person more as well. You know, she also admits to her mistakes, to her flaws. I just really think this was really well done, and I just really loved it, and I would definitely recommend it. I just don't want people to be like, oh, I can't believe you would recommend this, like, there's some bias. Yeah, of course there's bias. Like, what do you expect, you know? But for me, that's the thing. For me, this is the perspective that I wanted to learn from. I wanted to learn from this biased perspective. So that's that. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I almost thought about not giving it a rating because it's not something that I read for enjoyment. I read it to get information. But at the end of the day, I also still enjoyed a lot of parts, and I think that I got a lot more out of it than just information. So I wanted to give it a 4-star rating. Then I listened to On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, and I love this so much. I love this even more than I love The Hate You Give. I really loved the main character, Bree. I think Bree is fantastic. A wonderful, absolutely amazing, beautiful character that goes through so much good development. Obviously, I have some connection to it because, you know, Bree's dream is to become a rapper, and whenever there's something in a book that has to do with music and someone wanting to make a creative hobby their job, I relate to it in some ways. Yeah, I just felt connected to the main character in a way that I couldn't connect to Star. In general, the raps were fucking fantastic, and listening to it on audiobook has a very different feeling as well. I mean, it's not like you actually get a beat and someone rapping over it, but I think that the way Barney Turpin, who also did the audiobook for The Hate You Give, which I also already loved, I think the way that she did the raps, you would still really get it, and they gave me chills. Like, all of the raps that were in there, I always would get chills at the end of them. I loved all of the different intersections that we had. We had so many queer side characters. We had talk about, you know, things that affect the Black community, but also the Latinx community, how people get affected because they are Black and gay, and all these kinds of things. I really, really appreciated that a lot. In general, I just think that this is, again, a book that everybody can connect to. And I think this is what Angie Thomas does incredibly well, and I think that is also why her books do so well. Her books are important for Black teens to relate to, and I'm so glad that they exist for that. But I think at the end of the day, everybody is able to connect to it. And I think that is what she really nails. She is still putting Black teens' experiences first, and she is putting first that they can relate to what she's writing, but she also pays close attention to everybody being able to relate to it. And I think that is why her books are so amazing and why her books are doing so well. And I just really, really appreciate that. I think Angie Thomas is just doing an amazing job. We can all just be glad that she's here and she's doing the work. And yeah, I really, really, really loved On the Come Up. I can definitely see myself rereading it or re-listening to it because I did love the audiobook so much. And I just really love Brie as a character so much. And yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, in February, I finished The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. I loved it so goddamn much. I don't even know how to explain it. I wrote a long ass review, and I also will have a video review up for it a little less than 2 weeks. The Friday that's in like 12 days or something like that. That's when I'll have a video review up for it. I can only say that this is no book that has like really perfect, amazing writing, like a really, really great plot. I just feel so emotionally connected to this. Ashley Poston just really knows how to describe fandom and how it makes you feel and how fictional stories make you feel. She really, really just nails that. Like, absolutely nails that. Like, Geekarella already had a huge emotional impact on me, but reading The Princess and the Fangirl, I was already invested in this fictional science fiction series that's in these stories. I was already invested in this convention. I already knew all the basics. And then getting into this one, it was really like coming back to it. I felt like I was coming back to this con. Like, I just love this whole universe. One of my biggest dreams is that one day they adapt this science fiction show. I don't want these books to be adapted. I want the fictional science fiction show to be adapted because I love it. The characters are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Definitely the standout part of this novel, and the romance. And I know a lot of people are not gonna like the romances because this book takes place over 4 days of a convention and people are not gonna like it, and I know it. But I literally care 0% about that because I think at the end of the day, the romances were well written. Sometimes this is what I need in a book. I need to sit there and be like, this is flawed, this is flawed, this is flawed, this is flawed. People are gonna hate this, people are gonna hate this, people are gonna hate this, people are gonna hate this. But I'm just sitting there reading it and I literally do not care about any of the things. I'm just so in it. I'm just enjoying it so much, loving it so much, being so emotionally invested. Sometimes that is all I need, and especially at the time when I was reading it, that is all that I needed, and I just loved it. Just fell in love with it, head over heels, bawled my goddamn eyes out. I cannot even describe what I feel about this book and this universe because I just want to be part of it. I want to go to ExcelsiCon. I want to watch Starfield. I want to cosplay. I want to be like, look to the stars, aim, ignite. I am obsessed. I am just obsessed. Like, I am literally part of this fictional fandom. And if that doesn't tell you enough how much this book is really able, or this universe is really able to influence me, then I don't even know. If you really want to hear all of my thoughts about the things that I liked and didn't like so much and like some of the issues in it, then you should check out my Goodreads review, because that written review, that has all the things in there and it's much less gushy. Oh, I just love it. I just love it so much. Obviously, I gave The Princess and the Fangirl 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that is everything that I read. I'm like, oh, that was really exhausting. See, this is what I mean. Can you imagine me talking about 15 books today? Hell no. Let me know how your February went overall. I mean, considering it's the shortest month of the year, 28 days, I read 15 things. Damn. On top of all of the things that I did, I'm really proud of myself, and I hope you're proud of yourself too. Anyway, I make new videos every Wednesday and Sunday with occasional reviews on Friday, so click subscribe to never miss anything and hit the little bell so you get notified as well. And thank you so much for watching. I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!